So I'm just going to stay up here a little bit longer then, because I'm supposed to turn this podium back to Keely, but I'm not going to do that. Because the next awards that she's going to talk about are going to be the Sprague Awards. And these awards tonight cannot be introduced without mentioning the fact that the two winners are sitting right here with us. Al Tompkins and Dave Burnett, and I have to tell you, both of them had horrific travel experiences to get here. I'm not going to detail either of their experiences because I think a lot of people have heard, especially Dave's today, which I still want to know how you commandeered a taxi on the New Jersey Turnpike from Virginia. But we really cannot thank these two. They are some of the most professional people in this industry with the biggest hearts of gold, and both of them, when they began to have travel problems, we said, we just want you here to accept your awards tonight. They are so well deserved for both of you. And both individually said, I just want to be there to speak and be able to talk to the participants. We promised them we would be there. That is my priority. And I think that is part of why they're both getting these awards tonight, is that they have dedicated so much of their lives to helping everybody else in the industry and to helping build us up and make this industry one of the best to be a part of. So from the Northern Short Course, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything you did to be here, and cannot express our gratitude enough. And with that, I will turn the stage back over to Akili.
I'm quite honored to be able to present these awards tonight. The National Press Photographers Association's highest and most prestigious honor is the Joseph A. Sprague Memorial Award. And it's presented this year to the two individuals, we've already spoken, who, for their commitment to the craft of visual journalism and education that advances the profession. The first Sprague Award goes to David Burnett, who has a career that spans 50 years, and he's one of the most iconic people in photography. He has worked to inspire countless generations of photojournalists, but also continues to give back. He's worked with Photographers for Hope to bring attention to the homeless. David has also taught countless workshops to pass knowledge on to up-and-coming photographers. He does this in part because he remembers his first NPPA workshop in the 1960s. He was excited to be in the same room with photographers whose work he knew. Fred Ward of the National Geographic was speaking, and David was especially impressed with his work and learned something from his career. I'd like to introduce David Burnett to accept his award and say a few words.
I wanted to use that Academy Award line. It's like, I didn't have any idea, except that you called me like a month ago, and that was one of the great phone calls of the year, I have to say. It was very moving. And then I actually had to see who Joe Sprague was. Because I've heard the name for years. You know, I've been 50 years a member of NPPA, I think. Although I don't remember paying the dues last year, but I'm sure somebody will catch me up on that, perhaps. But what I discovered was he was a guy who was the liaison between Graflex and NPPA at a time when the speed graphic was the bomb. And according to what I could see, there's not a whole lot immediately available, but he was responsible for a lot of advances that were done to the speed graphic camera system to make it more usable by people of our trade. And you see some of those great photographs of like 10 sports photographers at a baseball game, and they're all carrying a Graflex or a speed graphic. We don't realize how easy we have it. But when I realized that he was the Speed Graphic guy, I thought, there's no more fitting award in my own view than this one, because I've been schlepping around a Speed Graphic now for about 15 years. And I just want to quote one of the great Life magazine photographers, Francis Nig Miller. When you see the photograph of the Life magazine photographers all gathered together, he was the guy always on the front row on the right end. He was about 5'6", 250, and could carry more camera bags than probably half of the people in this room even own. I met him on a trip that Lady Bird Johnson did at Salt Lake City when I was still a kid. And I saw the label on his camera bag, one of his big bags said, Francis Miller, Life. And I somehow already, even though we didn't have the internet, I knew that Nig was his nickname. And shortly after I saw him for the first time, I see him kind of grousing. And I walked up to him and he was so big. How big was he? He had cameras that would start here and just go down this sort of Mount Everest of his tummy, 24, 35, 85. I'm sure there was a 200 that he knew was down there that he couldn't see. And in his bag, he had an 814 Instamatic in case something happened. And he's grousing and sort of bitching and moaning. And I said, gee, Nig, what is it? And he said, these damn Nikons, they just ain't worth a damn. And I had one Pentax. I didn't yet have my first Nikon. And I thought, well, if you have too many, I would be happy to accept one. He said, nah, they're no good. You hit somebody with a Nikon, they go down, they get right back up. You hit them with a Speed Graphic, they're going to stay down. Thank you all very much.
The second Joseph A. Sprague Memorial Award recipient is Al Tompkins. Al is the senior faculty for broadcasting and online at the Poynter Institute and one of America's most requested journalism trainers and teachers. He has trained journalists around the world in writing, storytelling, ethics, critical thinking, multimedia online storytelling, and writing. Al doesn't see himself as a photojournalist, but has worked with photographers throughout his career. He is especially humbled by the list of previous Sprague Award winners that he calls a who's who of the profession. This year, he taught at 4 drone workshops sponsored by Poynter and NPPA, resulting in more than 100 journalists being able to earn their drone pilot licenses. He also helped draft a drone journalism code of ethics that outlines how the media can responsibly utilize drones to cover news and inform the public. Al has helped author ethics guidelines for the Radio, Television, and Digital News Association, and he authored the coverage guidelines for RTDNA and co-authored 5 editions of the RTDNA Ethics Workbook. I'd like to introduce Al Tompkins to accept his award and say a few words.
Well, the danger of being the last person and everybody standing is I figured you were walking out just now, so it scared me a little. I've enjoyed this evening more than most of these awards at Poynter. You know, we get to attend quite a few of these, but tonight Denny's dog has been sitting next to me, and every time you clap, his tail's been hitting my foot. It's really very funny. It's fantastic. So yeah, Jack Korn, who was a winner of the Sprague Award many years ago, was also a photography teacher of mine at Western Kentucky University. Upon my graduation from that program, Jack proclaimed that I'm not a photographer, I'm a TV guy. And to him, he saw that as two very different things. He said, no, I meant that as a compliment. I never did figure out what he was saying, but I knew that I was not you. I knew that I was not you. But what I've tried to be over the years is your supporter and your cheerleader and your admirer. I'm not you, but I love what you do. I wonder sometimes if you know how important what you do is every day. Let me give you an example. I wrote a story this week for Pointer about the Time magazine that came out this week on the opioid crisis. Have you seen it? Wall-to-wall black and white photographs. No advertisements, none. The photograph started, according to Paul Moakley, who I talked with for the story. He is the deputy photo editor for Time magazine. He said it started with a still picture of a little boy who was in the back seat of a van. His grandmother and her boyfriend overdosed from heroin in the front seat of that van. You probably have seen the photograph. And he said that picture stirred him so much that he had to go and find out what's going on, and he did. And 2 years later, we have this. Next week, he and his associates at Time magazine will be meeting with senators on the Hill to talk more about what do we do about this opioid crisis that so many of you cover. You've seen them in the photographs. The power of the image so often can change the course of humanity. It's what you do. I know that your job is tough right now. It is so hard to make a living doing what you do. My wife, who's a minister and also a therapist, and that's another whole seminar for another whole day, my wife says that burnout principally is caused by one thing, and that is that you forget that what you do matters. If you believe that what you do matters, you will keep doing jobs that don't pay very much, that have lousy benefits, if any. But if you believe what you're doing matters, you'll stay in it. My friends, don't you leave here tonight wondering whether what you do matters. You can look at the photographs that have been on this screen tonight and know the answer to that. What you do matters. I have to tell you that I want you so much to understand the power of your work. And it's only more powerful if you have the ethics of Denny and the dedication of Bob Gould and the skills of Carol. You have to be great at it. You have to be great at it. But hang in there. Kenny Irby, who was a recipient of the Sprague Award and a mentor of mine, a colleague of mine at Pointer for many years, used to yell at me almost daily because I had a bad habit, and still do, I use the word shooting. You shoot pictures. And he says, we do not shoot, we document. We do not shoot, we document. Whether you're a shooter or whether you're a documenter doesn't much matter to me. You are photojournalists, and I thank you for your work.